So I've been working in education for the past 2 years. And this school year, I made a leap into a new type of school. I left the school district that I was working in to become part of a brand new charter school authorized directly by the state, which it's the first of its kind in my city, as far as I know. I did this because it was intended to be a Hillsdale curriculum, Hillsdale model school that is associated with, affiliated with, informed by Hillsdale College, which is a college that I discovered back in about 2019, and I've been sort of learning from in the background ever since. I discovered Hillsdale through their free Constitution 101 course online, which I'll link in the description. And it's in that course that I learned, for example, just to give you a taste of kind of like the seriousness with which Hillsdale pursues truth. I learned, for example, that the just powers of a government, such as the United States government, is derived from the consent of the governed. The beauty of the simplicity of that idea, the beauty of it, of the ringing with which it rings of truth, that's the kind of thing that Hillsdale College pursues and believes in and takes seriously. And so I fell in love with it. I fell in love with Hillsdale College, and I've read, I guess I only have one book really from them directly, but their philosophy has inspired and influenced me in the direction that I've taken. Really, I guess what I'll say is, with respect to education and the kind of teaching that I was planning on doing, Hillsdale has informed me greatly, and I really believe in the way that they do things. So here's what happened. To give some background, when I started in education, I fell in love with it immediately. I was living in Texas beforehand because I had taken a leap of faith. If you watched like some of my older videos, which you might not have, it's been a while since I've been on YouTube. But I went to Austin to do some soul searching, and I learned Spanish down there. When I came back, I fell in love with, I got an education per the recommendation of my mother, and I wasn't sure if I'd, like it, but I fell in love with it immediately. And I decided at that point, like as soon as I started in education and fell in love with it, I decided, okay, I want to be a teacher. This is what I've meant to do. And so I worked those 2 years. I've been in education for 2 years. I didn't just work the job, but I also was in school for like the year and a half after the first semester to become licensed to teach. And I did. I finished that just the end of last school year. But getting into this brand new school, even though I was licensed to teach, I believed in this school enough to settle for a para position for a third year in a row, passed up the teacher salary of going into the school district or another, there's another charter school here in my city that is not a state authorized one, but a district charter school, so it's a little bit different. They have different rules, and I actually interviewed there, funny enough, but I didn't like the way that I didn't like the spirit of the building. I knew it wasn't going to be a good fit. So my point is, I believe in this stuff and I'm serious about it enough to where, even though I'm licensed to teach and I was finished to begin teaching at the beginning of this school year, I decided not to, because I believe in the cause of this school, the approach of this school enough to get my foot in the door, especially the inaugural year, the birth year of a brand new Hillsdale affiliated school. I was not going to pass up that opportunity. But then here's what happened. Leadership changed last minute, and a little bit of the story. The former headmaster, after spending about 2 years preparing for the school opening, being trained directly by Hillsdale, having all of the materials that new school leaders get with respect to how the school is in relationship with the board, how the school ought to be started, the culture of the building, all the kinds of things like that. He, this past summer, started getting calls from back home that essentially told him it was time to go back home to start taking care of his folks. His folks and his wife's folks are both aging, is the way that he put it, and in need of assistance. And we all understood that. So he had to walk away, and it was hard for him, of course, but it was time for him to do that. And so we got a new leader. And the way that I describe it, without being unfair and giving a bunch of details and names and things like that, at best, this new leadership was poorly mission aligned, meaning that she didn't necessarily believe in, or certainly wasn't bought in to, the Hillsdale model, the Hillsdale philosophy, with respect to, for example, teachers being the heads of the classroom, teachers leading students toward virtue, excellence, that kind of spirit of traditional learning. That's an example, one example of a handful of very important things that distinguish a Hillsdale school from other types of schools, a Hillsdale classical school from other types of schools. At best, she was poorly aligned with that. But at worst, and I do believe it was worse than that, there was lies and there was deceit occurring. And there's a lot of different things that I could say about that, but what I'll say specifically is, we were told, for example, the staff, we were told that there was no plan passed on to this new leader of ours, that she wasn't even sure if one existed. And she told me that the day before the staff meeting, that what I did was, first of all, the former headmaster told me that was a lie, that there was a plan, and it was passed down to her, it was offered to her, and not only her, but also the board. And he shared those with me. He shared the plans with me. It took a little bit of fighting, just like the job itself took me a little bit of fighting, and he was the one that I was, persistent with in order to get the job in the first place. But he did, because he cares about me. He didn't want to see me lose my job, and he knew that was a risk, and I knew that was a risk. But he did. He appreciated my persistence. He appreciated my courage. And so after he shared those with me, and it was verified, like, there are plans. Here's my thinking. She told us that there were no plans, or at least that they were not passed down to her. So I figured, okay, well, I'm going to take that at face value. If that's the case, if that's true, first of all, if it's true, then it ought to be great news that here you go. Here are the plans from the former headmaster that you can use to create a good school and to create structure and order that's not in place right now. Our master schedule keeps changing because we can't settle on one that makes sense, because we haven't thought through it. We haven't considered all of the variables. And we've put the school at legal risk, for example, because special education isn't getting the minutes that they require. That's just one small example. If it's the case that you weren't passed on a plan, or you weren't aware of one, this should be great news. Here's the former plan. Or it was a lie, and in my opinion, you've lost all credibility as our leader. One of the two is the case, right? So I just figured here you go. Here are the plans. Here's what I did. Last staff meeting, I revealed all of those plans to everyone. I was not afraid of being retaliated against. And she fired me on the spot, which was a little unexpected. I mean, I half expected to lose my job, but it was a little shocking that it happened at the staff meeting right then and there. To be fair, her side of the story, I was definitely being insubordinate. I was not being kind. I was not being warm and fuzzy. I was angry, and I think rightfully so. But anyway, so that's the story. So the question now is, what's next? The title of this video, why I'm smiling, why this is a good thing that this happened. And it was a good thing. It was an important thing. I told a colleague shortly after it happened, I'm a little sad, understandably so, because, I was excited. I believe in the school. I do still. I would love to see the school succeed, but not with that dichotomy, not with the dichotomous leadership. I'm a little sad because I believe in the cause. I believe in the philosophy of Hillsdale College. I believe in what they understand education to be and what it ought to be. But I told her, I'm also a little relieved. I'm also relieved. And the reason is I'm freed. I've been freed from an institution that I feel has been made deceitful. They are not at all what they've painted themselves to be online, on their website. They're not what was promised to the community over the 2 years that they were building up to open the school. They're at risk, frankly, legally, but more importantly, in my opinion, financially. They have a model that is not sustainable. Unless something changes, the can's being kicked down the road, and there's going to come a day where it can't be kicked down the road anymore. And I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be a part of a deceitful situation, a deceitful institution that is virtually, effectively pretending to be Hillsdale associated and following the Hillsdale model. It's not. Moving forward, I'm taking control. And what I mean by that is, I've been dabbling in this YouTube stuff for a long time, but I've never buckled down and committed to making it where I do my teaching. Because like I said, when I got into education, I fell in love with it, and I knew teaching is what I want to do. That is what I'm meant to do and where I'm meant to be. And I've always known that I wanted to do YouTube, or I have for as long as I can remember. I just never, connected the dots to see that is where I wanted to do my teaching. Because I do feel I'm making a little bit of a sacrifice not having a classroom to lead. And so for that reason, maybe I'll still come around to teaching in a Hillsdale Associated school one day. But in the meantime, I intend on making this my profession. And I encourage you, if you're watching this video 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years down the road, take a look at the subscriber count. Because at the time of this recording, September 30th, 2024, I have less than 200 subscribers. And I have less than 30 videos posted on my channel. But I have a plan, and I have a seriousness about that plan, which is the key. Which leads me into the last thing that I'll say. If you want this confidence, if you want to finally get serious about that dream of yours, it starts by having an iron word. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. Yay. Yes, as in yes. If you say something's not acceptable to you, you mean it. Nay. No. And look, you might not have this confidence right now. You might not be able to say something big, or you might not have the confidence about statements that you say that are toward big things, big goals of yours or dreams of yours. But here's how it builds. You start small. You might not have confidence to say something big right now, but I bet you if at the start of the day you say, I'm going to wash my car today, probably you have confidence that you're going to make that happen. You do that, you declare it, you follow through, and you've built yourself up toward a little bit more confidence. And then that builds up into something eventually to where you can say, for example, I'm going to earn $120,000 a year by age 35. Here's the way Jesus puts it. This is Matthew 5:33. Again ye have heard that it hath been said by them of old time, Thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. Neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because thou canst not make one hair white or black. But let your communication be, yea, yea, nay, nay. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. Hasta la próxima, mis estudiantes.